what's up out there YouTube? Double D here with Tournage du Bois. Welcome back. First time in the shop in almost 7 weeks. I bought a new car. I had to go work travel. Well, new to me car. Put a picture right here. Had to go to work on a work trip to West Virginia, so I got to hang out with this guy right here. And on top of that, we got all the floors in our house redone. So we basically had to pack everything up and move out while that was done and then move back in. So 0 stars, do not recommend. But at any rate, I have this piece of apple. Since this is the first time in the shop, trying to get something done, some more pieces made for my upcoming shows. I'm going to do a simple live edged bowl. So let's get rolling. All right, so we have a little tiny bit of cracking. I'm going to cut this tenon down just a little bit, but we're going to do some sanding, then we're going to sanding seal it, put some CA glue on those cracks, and then we will finish up the outside and get it flipped around. But first, like I said, I'm going to cut this tenon down just a little bit so it's not quite so far out when we go to flip it around. I'll do that off camera and I'll start sanding. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to do the sanding sealer. All right, so I sanded that at 80 grit and decided because of the end grain, I think I want to go ahead and do some sanding sealer. So we're going to put some sanding sealer on this, and then we will CA glue it, and then we will get back to sanding. I did cut off just a little bit more off the base because the crack was not quite as shallow as I thought. I had a little bit of a piece that came out, so decided to just go ahead and cut it back just a little bit more. So it's a little shallower than I originally had anticipated. But I want a bowl that's going to stick together, so that being the case, let's make it work. I had started another project today and was in the works with that, and found out that I need to do some casting with that. So that will be a future video. So I've actually had some decent time in the shop today, which makes me happy. Like I said, having not been out here for 7 weeks, kind of driving me crazy to not be out in the shop working a bit. All right, we're going to let that set up, and then we will put our glue, and then we'll be back. All right, and we are back. So we have a little bit of a groove there. I'm going to use my Starbond medium, and if you need some CA glue, there's a link to the down below in the description. Use that or the coupon code DD15 for 15% off your Starbond order, and get some of the best CA glue on the market. So I'm just going to fill this crack, and the medium dries a little bit slower than the thin. So what I want to do is I have that, and I've got all this sawdust from this piece that I've been doing. So I'm just going to work that into those cracks so I keep the similar coloring that I've had on this piece. So that CA glue and the sawdust will blend that in pretty good, and we should not see any issues with that as we proceed. Crack is not all the way over to here, so I don't have anything to do on this end. So we'll give that just a couple of minutes to dry, and then we will get back to sanding and then get it flipped around. All right, we are back. I have that sanded up to 240 grit. So now I'm going to do some denatured alcohol. Now, for those of you who are newer to my channel, I use that sanding sealer before I do any of the CA glue, because that keeps the wood from staining with that CA glue. So CA glue, with some of the chemicals in it, it will stain the wood, so you'll get a little discoloration around that. That sanding sealer keeps that from happening. So that is why I use it, for those of you who are new. Now this denatured alcohol is just going to stand that grain up just a little bit, put enough moisture in there that it'll stand that up, and then we will knock it back again with higher grit, and that'll give us a smoother finish. That's really important on these live edge bowls where I don't use abrasive paste, just because of the air space that's in between where these lower areas are, and it won't get keep a pad on that during that time period. All right, so I now have that sanded up to 320 grit. Full disclosure though, off camera, I did have the tenon break on the back. So I went ahead and put a mortise in it so that we could get this finished up, but I didn't bother showing you that on the video. So I did do that, but we will get this denatured alcohol on, get that grain to pop, hit it with 400 grit, and then we will be back with our finish and get this wrapped up. All right, and for our finish today, we're going to use our Tung wax. Now I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to put that on with a white Scotch-Brite pad. This is just how I do, this is just like how I do the Tung Honey from Brad's Workbench. And there is a link to his Etsy store down below, as well as you can use coupon code DD10 for 10% off. Now I'm going to do this, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this on, get a nice coat of it, and then I'm going to let it set. And then what I'm going to do, and I won't do this on camera, but what I will probably do is I'm going to get my heat gun out, and I'm going to heat this up pretty good so that it melts that wax right into the wood. This is going to soak in really well, but this will also give that chance for that wax to get worked in and soak in and then melt in with a little bit of heat. I might do it on camera, but I don't know yet. Not quite sure how that will work. Since I can't buff this though, I could put it on the lathe and get the middle part buffed. I just wouldn't be able to do the other portions out here on these wings. So that's just the one thing I have to think about as I'm doing this process. So you can see I laser engraved that. Got that mortise that I mentioned that I had to do because the tenon came off. I don't normally do mortises as you long-term viewers do. I used to do it quite often when I was first starting because that's what I was comfortable with. But now I've gotten to where I'm much more comfortable with tenons to get that nice smooth base of the piece to where it's not obvious how it was held onto the lathe. And I know I could sand that edge down, and now I know I could also sand that edge down to where it wouldn't be as obvious, but I don't like doing that either. So I will come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to let this sit overnight. I'm going to come back to it tomorrow. We're going to see how it looks. Might put a second coat on before I try any of the heat technique, just to, like I said, get that wax to melt right into there. And then I would wipe the excess off with a rag. Now you can just do that also. You can just wipe that off, let this set. But I like how the wax, once it kind of melts in with the friction that you normally use, it'll really let it harden up and keep that finish looking nice. So we'll get this on, and we will be back to do the wrap up. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that project where we made the live edge apple bowl. I've never turned any apple before. Turned very nicely, finishes nicely. Full disclosure, I did not do the heat. I let this set for a full day. Came out with a rag, used some pressure, and just kind of worked that in. Nice, smooth finish. Very happy with this. As always, the Brad's Workbench stuff is amazing. So if you have not tried that, check it out. Also, full disclosure, I had started another project that I got partway through and determined it's going to be a longer project than I had for this week's video. So that's going to be one that's coming down the road. So this is why we did a little bit of a smaller project. But like I said, I'd never turned apple before. Love the graining in it, absolutely beautiful. And I love doing the live edge pieces. If this is your first time here, please do consider subscribing. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down, but leave your comments, feedback down below. It is awesome to be back in the workshop after a 7-week hiatus. And I'm looking forward to putting out more content and doing some more projects. So at any rate, we will catch you all next time.